Boys and girls, Formula One is back. The circus is back in town, and today was the first official day of the 2019 season, and oh my god, doesn't it feel good just to hear those words? Formula One is back. Let's just jump into it. We've got plenty to talk about today. From the first day of testing, I'll be covering every single day of testing for the next 2 weeks. Tomorrow is going to be the only day which is slightly different. I've got an exam tomorrow night, so most likely I'll do coverage of the morning and most of the afternoon session, so hopefully that's will be all sorted. So if you're interested in keeping up to date with Formula One winter testing, please feel free to subscribe. So first of all, let's go through the times, let's go through the stats, the nitty-gritty bits of information before we get into the real juicy stories from throughout the day, including some incidents involving my boy Romain Grosjean. So let's look at the times then. Are we surprised Ferrari's at top? A little bit. 118.1, Sebastian Vettel's fastest time. 169 laps completed as well, the most laps of anyone. Really impressing in that Ferrari. And we know it's only doors, and I know it's testing. I will say this all week long and all next week. You can't read into testing. However, they do show little signs of what's to come across the season. So even though we can't read into it too much, this is a strong start from Ferrari. Arguably, an even stronger start from the guy in second place, Carlos Sainz in McLaren. 119 laps completed. What a turnaround a year makes. Last year, on the first day of practice, Alonso's tyre blew off when they didn't do barely any running whatsoever. So 119 laps completed, only 4 tenths off Sebastian Vettel is a really solid job. Then in third came my boy Romain Grosjean, representing with 65 laps completed. We'll talk about why that was in a few minutes. A 119.1 from Grosjean. Verstappen fourth with Raikkonen in the Alfa Romeo. That was brilliant to see him back at Sauber, although they're not Sauber anymore, are they? They're Alfa Romeo. That's going to take a lot getting used to. Danny Kvyat back in Formula One. He was behind Raikkonen. Then came Sergio Perez, who only did 30 laps, the least of anyone. Racing Point having a difficult start. Then came Bottas, Hamilton, and the final two for the two Renault boys, Hulkenberg and Ricciardo. Hamilton 81 laps. A fairly solid job from our new 5 times world champion. Our first photo of the day is going to be obviously of Romain Grosjean's number 8, looking really nice on the Haas actually, something that I really got used to throughout the day. But that's the lap times, that's the laps out of the way. Vettel was the one for me that really stood out as being a star performer, performed constantly quick laps all day, but that McLaren, second place, putting in some really good starts to this season. The start of the day then, let's go through the more interesting stories. We saw launches from Alfa Romeo and Red Bull. Unfortunately, went back to their normal livery, which, let's be honest, isn't really a massive surprise. A little disappointing. I wasn't a big fan of their launch livery in the end. Really loved it in the studio shots, but when it went out onto the circuit, I was a little bit not really loving it, you know, not hating it, but not really feeling it, to be honest with you. So not too gutted they've gone back to their normal one. I would have liked them to spice it up a little bit, but that's not the Red Bull way, is it? So we've ended up with the normal matte blacky navy sort of job with the yellow and red. It's just classic Red Bull, isn't it? And I know a few people have said, you know, it's almost becoming, well, a classic Formula One livery now. So I can understand why they want to keep it like Mercedes, as you can see there, with loads of grids and apparatus on that car, which won't be there come Melbourne. And also Ferrari with their red. However, that red looked particularly orange on this particular day, so I don't think it really does it justice in some of the photos throughout this video, but definitely on the TV cameras looked quite orange, that car, which was slightly alarming. So like I mentioned in the testing video, the little guide to testing, we've got a morning session and an afternoon session. Vettel was the one who topped the morning session. Big stories coming out that morning session though. We saw 2 red flags. One coming from Kimi Raikkonen. He had a little spin out of turn 5, binned it in the gravel, which in a sense was pretty cool, to be totally honest with you. You know, you expect these sessions to be a little bit dull, but No, we got a bit of drama very early on in the session. There you can see the beached Alfa Romeo with their new livery. This is a couple of hours after they launched the car, and already it was getting the tow trucks to come along and come and pick it up. Not quite the start Kimi would have wanted to his Alfa Romeo career, but that was our first red flag of the day. Not too long later, we saw spins from Sebastian Vettel in the morning session, Romain Grosjean and obviously Kimi Raikkonen. But just after this red flag, we got another red flag for my boy Romain Grosjean in the Haas F1 team. And before you say it, no, he didn't crash the car. You know, I can hear those keyboards going, no. He didn't crash the car, although yes, he did have a spin throughout the day, but the actual issue, a little bit different, and it's something that seemed to have plagued all of the Ferrari teams over testing. Similarly, something sort of in the similar sort of area happened last year to all the Ferrari teams in testing, and it was a fuel pressure issue that caused the car to stop in Sector 2, which put to bed any sort of testing for the rest of the morning. They finally got it out with, I think, about 20 minutes left of the morning session, so Grosjean got in a few more laps, but going into lunchtime, they'd only completed 17 laps, so as you can imagine, I was a little bit nervous, but in the afternoon, as we saw a little bit later on, they did manage to put in some impressive laps from Haas again, and I'm expecting them to do well this year. You know, nothing too crazy, but maybe they could sneak a podium. Again, testing, we don't know, but it wasn't looking too bad from that car. Better than it did the Racing Point, who only completed 30 laps from the entire day. Otmar Zafnauer coming out and saying that today, because they hadn't had a shakedown, this was their almost shakedown day. They hadn't had chance because of the late launch in Toronto, and basically schedules were so tight for that team. This was really just a day just to get used to the car and almost just throw away the day, similar to the team that you can see on screen. And you might be thinking, well, that wasn't a team, that was just some black boards. Well, that was Williams. That was Williams F1, and their first day of testing was obsolete. There was a car behind those black sheets, but nothing else. A few team members about George Russell, very chipper actually from his interviews on Sky F1. Yes, I've got Sky F1 this year, very reluctantly, but that's neither here nor there. That's definitely a discussion for another day. He seemed very chipper about the whole situation, but Williams not doing any running today, and they won't be doing any running tomorrow either. 2 days of no testing. Now, it's not the end of the world, no testing. Force India did it last year, I believe it was. I think it was last year, could have been 2017. Didn't do any running for the first day whatsoever. And last year as well, all of the teams missed multiple days because of snow. So it's not, you know, the be-all and end-all if you miss a couple of days, but obviously that's 2 days that extra teams have had more running. Even Force India, I've done it already, Racing Point, they've even been able to get 30 laps out of today, and that's 30 laps already more than Williams. And you look at Sebastian Vettel, who did 169 laps, you know, in 2 days, that's over 300 laps if he repeats that tomorrow. McLaren only did 500 a couple of years ago. So you're really starting to think 1 day can really make all the world of difference. So for Williams missing 2 days, a team that already are expected to struggle this year, that is major. That is so major. And at the same time, George Russell and Robert Kubica are sharing the car with Nicholas Latifi. So for Russell and Kubica, they're going to have very limited running, the same as Alex Albon. And I just wanted to mention him quickly. He's rookie for Toro Rosso this year. He's never driven a Formula 1 car ever. He did it last week in the shakedown for the very first time, but that's it. So, crazily enough, when we show up in Melbourne, I believe he will have driven a Formula 1 car 4 times. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, well, he's a rookie, so that's what you expect. But Giovinazzi has done 2 Formula 1 races, testing for the last 3 years now in Formula 1. George Russell, he's been testing for the last couple of years with Mercedes, with Williams, Robert Kubica as well. Even he We know he's taken part in Formula 1 before, but even he's done running in these new types of Formula 1 cars. And Lando Norris did multiple FP1 sessions last year with McLaren. So if anyone's really the biggest rookie on the grid, it's got to be Alex Albon. He's going to be under a lot of pressure. But like I say, Russell as well, he's going to get even less time to drive the car. So it's lucky that he's just got that little bit of extra experience from the Williams last season. But really, for them, that is a real disappointment for Williams. And funnily enough, their first day is going to be my first day joining the F1 Word, Sean, to do live testing commentary with him. So that'll be fun for me to have a go at how terrible that livery is live with him. But for the team, that's pretty awful. And for Williams fans out there, I really do feel your pain, because that is not how you want to start a season. Anyway, the afternoon session, a little bit more quiet. Lots of teams deciding to do much less running, to be totally honest with you. We saw Hamilton do his first laps of the 2019 season. Likewise with Daniel Ricciardo in Renault, which still was very odd. It was very odd to see Daniel Ricciardo in a Renault. And I thought, when they announced it, I thought, yeah, I don't really see him in the yellow overalls and the yellow car. But I'm sure, once, like Charles Leclerc, once he was in the Ferrari, it just made sense. But Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault, it still doesn't quite fit in my brain that that's Daniel Ricciardo in that car. But Ricciardo and Hamilton came in, replaced Bottas and Hülkenberg for the afternoon session. Nothing too crazy to report. Carlos Sainz broke down at the end of the pit lane, but as mentioned, he was able to get going again and did a really impressive afternoon session. And makes me wonder, could McLaren be in that fight for fourth place? Maybe even, third's too much, I think, McLaren third place. But they were looking so good today. Makes me feel a little bit more optimistic. And I was trying to really hold back with McLaren this year, and I didn't want to be too crazy, but it's looking good early signs. And they're going to be a team that I'm going to have my eye on for the rest of testing. And then I suppose the last real sort of point of note was obviously the new front wings. We hadn't had a chance to use the new front wings yet. We'd seen them on the cars, but not actually going around the circuit. And just wanted to quickly mention as well, heads up, the DRS is absolutely massive this year. It's huge. I can't really put it into words how crazily big the DRS is. So keep your eye out for that for the rest of the week. But apart from that, we saw Hamilton and Danny Kvyat having a bit of a scrap on track. And I think that was just the Mercedes boys and the Toro Rosso guys just trying to work out how following is going to be this year. And we heard going into the session that some teams might opt to do that, try and follow another car. And strangely enough, the Red Bull Junior team decided to partner up with the Mercedes team almost and do that for a few laps. So that was a bit of fun. But that is your roundup for testing day 1. I'll be back tomorrow with your testing roundup for day 2. And likewise, day 3, day 4. I love it. I really do. Formula 1 is back. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.